Although it happened quite some time ago, I'm still bothered by this experience. Around September of last year, I spent the night at my grandparents' home. That evening, everything seemed to be going relatively normally. We ate my grandmother's delicious steak, watched TV, and then looked at some old photos. When night came around, I went to the guest bedroom, which had been my room before when we used to live with them. At around 2 o'clock, I put my laptop up to play some music as I got ready for bed so that I might doze off. Now, let me tell you, there were a few paranormal occurrences when we used to live there, but I wouldn't characterize any of them as horrible or frightening. For instance, I've always been a light sleeper and would wake up if someone even walked quietly on the wooden floors outside of my room. This happened a few times, waking up to soft footsteps in the hallway by my room, but my grandparents assuring me later that they were not up at all. One time, I even went to check, but all the doors were closed and nobody seemed to be awake. Anyway, the general layout of my room was slightly odd compared to other rooms. There was a corner in this room which led to a small hallway before you reached the entrance door. So from the bed, you couldn't see the door, only the small hallway leading to the door. I must have dozed off pretty quickly though, because I woke up suddenly without even remembering falling asleep. It was around 4 in the morning, and I felt extremely tired. This was a little unusual, because every time I'd wake up in the middle of the night, I'd usually feel pretty awake and good, which was often the reason for my body waking me up. But this time, I was really tired. I didn't hear anything that woke me up, but since I was so tired, I knew I hadn't just woken up on my own. I looked in the direction of the short hallway with my half-opened eyes. Seeing nothing, although it was dark, I put my head back on the pillow and closed my eyes. I laid for a few minutes in silence, on the brink of sleep, before I heard the awful sound of my bedroom door closing. My eyes shot open, and I raised my body up from the pillow, staring into the empty darkness of the hallway. I must have been frozen in that position for a whole minute before I got out of bed and went over to the door. Nothing was there, but I knew something was not right. I always kept the door shut, so who opened it? The thought made me shiver, and I quickly locked the door, then hopped back in bed. I told myself that it must have been one of my grandparents, though I couldn't come up with a reason for them opening and closing my door. Trying to forget it, I closed my eyes again and laid silently. Just as I did, loud, running footsteps came from outside the room, coming towards the door. They sounded like heavy, barefoot steps, stopping abruptly at the room door. I waited, completely horrified and in a total state of shock. A few long, anxious seconds passed before I again heard the door aggressively slam shut. This time, having seen the door already closed not even a minute prior, and never hearing it open, I was stuck in a panic. My heart was beating rapidly, and yet I felt like I was too scared to move. I stayed sitting up in my bed all night until morning. I hadn't told my grandparents so as to not frighten them, and instead just made an excuse to leave early and head home. A few months later though, I was sleeping over at a friend's place trying to fall asleep while lying on the floor. My eyes closed and my body facing away from the door. I heard it again. The door closing, but this time softly. I looked over at my friend, but he was already sound asleep and hadn't heard a thing when I asked him in the morning. Surprisingly, I haven't heard it since then, and I've never heard it in my own home. I have virtually no idea what I've been experiencing, but I have a very strong feeling that I'm being watched by a paranormal entity. I still don't understand the significance of the already closed door closing again, but I would really appreciate it if someone could explain it to me or even share with me a method to get rid of it. Because even still today, I lay in bed paranoid every night, fearing that I may wake up to something horrible.